to Soul Hugs and welcome to this next episode in my welcoming series. When I started being alone, that was after my first breakup. Obviously, I was heartbroken, I was devastated, I was just so hurt. I was truly hurt. And it took me quite a while actually. I think in the first 3 months I've done nothing but thinking about why it ended or what was the reason, because I was left without answers. At some point I was like, okay, I need to find some things to do, and I really want to be active. I really want to find a purpose, a task to do. I started working, and next to like my work I started rediscovering myself. And it was COVID as well, I think, so bad timing. But COVID was basically the best thing that could happen to me, to have some like back informations. I got a burnout in my last uni year. I never had panic attacks, but I think in terms of my uni, because it was already COVID and we had to stay at home, we got like emails to update us what we have to do for the exams. And every time I got an email, I was like close to cry because it was just like too much pressure. My whole chest closed up and I couldn't breathe. I can't do anything, and I stepped away as much as I could. I think 1 or 2 weeks before the exams, I was like, I can't write the exams without preparing myself. I need to prepare myself and I need to start. And I did it in my pace, and I did it as well as I could. Looking back, I'm really happy with every decision I made. So I stepped back after my degree and took time for myself to recover and try to find myself again. And at this time I was still together with my ex-boyfriend. I was totally aware of how hard it was, and I always said to him, I would completely understand if you break up with me, because how should you know how to handle it if I don't know it myself? We spoke about it a lot, but he stayed. He was pretty big support for me. I don't know if I want to tell the story how we broke up. Basically, I was in a retreat and came out being single. Still in my gap year, trying to recover and like finding back to myself. I think I was in therapy at this time, or I think I was in therapy after, because with the breakup it was obviously a good reason to go back to therapy. I spent New Year's in Vienna by myself, because that's a different story, but I was like, I don't want to wait for someone making plans and then I will end up at someone random's house and I don't enjoy it. So I always wanted to go to Vienna, and I was like, fuck yeah. I was like, I'm just gonna do it by myself, and I'm gonna do it for New Year's. So I have actually plans for New Year's, and I'm in charge for what I want to do on New Year's. And I think especially this trip to Vienna gave me so much, because I remember sitting on a rooftop bar, not necessarily bar, the bar was inside and you could sit outside looking over Vienna, and I love those kind of spots. I love spots that are a bit higher and you can like let your view just lose itself in the horizon. That's where I feel free. But I remember sitting there writing down what I've learned in my year, how my year was, and I also wrote down the good things and the bad things. And the only bad thing was like the breakup. But after I wrote it down, I was like, actually it's not a bad thing, because if that wouldn't have happened, I wouldn't sit here, and that's exactly where I should be. So in the end, even the negative thing I turned into something positive. That helped me loads. I think that is definitely a key moment. Yeah, Vienna is a special memory, for sure. Pretty soon after, I went to Sri Lanka in February, and I wasn't afraid. I wasn't scared. I was like so much in my element to go further and expanding my horizons, going out into the world. I always wanted to travel. I always wanted to go see the world. I was like so young, and I always said, if I'm a grown up, I want to like travel the world and stuff. And yeah, I did. Of course, it's like important to mention that I had friends back home, but I could never connect with them the way I needed it. And unfortunately, I also experienced much disappointment in this friends group or with friends. I've learned to not having any expectations. It made my life way easier. I've learned being by myself most of the time. My mum always said to me I had to learn so many things in such a young age, and it made me mature way faster. And now I can definitely agree with that. I would not change a thing, because I became the person I am now just because of those things. So yeah, I went to Sri Lanka, met the Swiss couple, came back and knew I need to go. That is not the place for me to be. And flew to Australia. And Australia, oh, I have goosebumps everywhere right now. I was so happy in Australia, even that I reached my capacity and learned so much in terms of my highly sensitivity, which I probably would never have experienced if I wouldn't have left my hometown. Because like you're surrounded by so many different situations and people and things that makes you need to change or develop. Not necessarily change, but develop. Everything seemed and looked so pretty in Australia, and it really is, and it really was. You always obviously have your ups and downs, and you always have your struggles and your problems. They're just different. They're just different compared to having problems and struggles at home, because you're in completely different environment. You're completely in a completely different surrounding. You grow, even if you maybe not realize it. So obviously the problems and struggles are different. Most of the people see everything that's online and they think, oh, you just like live the best life and you don't have problems. No, you have problems as well. And even if you're laying at the prettiest beach, you can feel unhappy. Even if you think, oh, why am I not happy? I should be happy and appreciate what I do and where I am. You also have your bad days, and that's completely normal. It's all part of it. So the more you accept it, the easier it will be. And don't be so hard on yourself. We jumped to New Zealand. I was really happy to change the way I was traveling before. Maybe travel with someone else, or take some people in my car to travel with. Because the feeling started in Australia that I experienced some things and I wish to have someone with me to share this experience. Because you are connected with this person, with this experience, and you will always have to talk about it when you catch up or if you like message each other. And this whole memory feels so much more alive because everyone has their perception and their feelings to the situation or the experience. And I really missed that in Australia. I wanted to share memories. And don't have it only for myself. And I was like, as I said, I was happy to change that in New Zealand. In the end, it never happened. In the end, I again traveled by myself and I felt way more intense being lonely. Even that you feel so much freedom and you're happy, at the same time you also feel lonely. They're two completely different feelings coming together. I think there's a fine line between those two feelings. I shared obviously everything, and I think that's one thing why I connected with some people on this level, because they felt the same way. I had my car in New Zealand and I was sleeping in my car traveling through the country. That was my nightmare when I was in New Zealand, that someone like will knock on my window and telling you have to leave. Always going to bed with the fear. That's so much pressure. It actually happened twice. Because one time I knew I was not supposed to stay there, but like I tried and I was like, please. Or every time when you hear someone coming, or like if you see the headlights of the car, you like start breathing and you're like, please, I'm invisible. Yeah, it happened once near of a botanical garden. It was a guide. I think I slept in my normal clothes because I was just so stressed that I didn't have the capacity to like change. And then I was like laying in my bed trying to calm my mind down, and then someone was like knocking on my window. His voice was like not very kind, but no front, to be fair. And he was like, yeah, you have to leave. And I was like, oh, okay, sorry. I was not thinking about it. I like packed everything together, left. And actually, even that is always the case. It's way worse in your head than the situation is. So even that it was my nightmare, it happened once, it was completely fine. But your whole body and your whole mind is like so aware of like that things can possibly happen, and you have to act or react in this moment. Even if you like, if I was like sleeping on a campsite I knew I'm supposed to, you still have like the weird feeling sometimes. Obviously sometimes I felt more safe, sometimes I did not. But you just adjust to the situation basically. And then as I said, it happened twice, and then it happened once on the North Island and once on the South Island. And that was a campsite I could stay, but it was a certain capacity, and I arrived too late because all the spots were already gone. I was really sick, and I was like, I really want to feel safe tonight. I want to feel safe, and I don't want to like park on a dodgy parking area knowing that I can stay there, but it feels just dodgy. But yeah, and then that was the second time when a guard knocked on my window saying that I have to leave, and like, but he was really kind. He was like, oh, try this camp spot, and I was like, I was there, but it looked dodgy, and he was like, no, like there are a lot of people standing there. Yeah, of course. Like, I went to this park side, and like there were like in front of me there were like 2 drug addicts, and like, bro, that's exactly the reason why I don't want to stay there, because it felt dodgy already when I passed it. Just let me stay. But anyways, I was already there, and I had to like stay there, and I was like, please, I just want to sleep. I just want to recover because I'm sick. Those are not the enjoyable parts of traveling, but it makes you grow in a different way as well. When my New Zealand time came to an end, I was ready to go home, even that I knew it is not my place to be, and I knew I won't stay there for long. But just knowing that you can arrive somewhere without the pressure of building something and finding a job and paying rent and everything, and not being in survival mode 24/7, to like knowing that you can actually arrive and chill. Yeah, I was really looking forward to go home. Not actually, but it was also not negative. I was fine with it, and I accepted it, and was like, okay, yeah, that's okay for now. And then obviously how it is to go back home, and how it is having grown so much. Obviously everyone has a hard time, and it takes time to adjust. But it's not about adjusting. I told so many people that, because so many people asked me how I feel and how it is being back home. And I was like, it is hard, I'm not gonna lie. But I think it's also so important to go back home to realize and figure it out how you want to live your life and where you want to live your life. And I knew that I want to keep living the lifestyle I lived for the past 2 years. I think the hardest thing being at home is to stand up for yourself and staying the person you became, instead of falling back into character patterns of your old version. I'm really happy that I let go of the negativity we grew up with in our society, and complaining about things, and like not appreciating things we have, and always wanting things we don't have. I'm really happy that I could let go of that, and that I'm happy in just being present and just being me. We talked about that last episode with Jacob. Obviously you need money to survive, but you don't need money to be happy. I was living at the edge for like a few times. Like there were times I had like $9 in my bank account, and fuck yeah, it was stressful, but in the end I was like way happier in this situation compared to some other situations where I had financial security. I will read you basically the down phases and how I felt when I was like on my low. And there's actually the second text I will like read. I really reached my limit of being alone here in Whistler. As Jacob and I talked about it last episode, shows you things you have to face. But yeah, I reached my limits in Whistler. I felt down for at least a month, and I think that was the lowest I've been in a while. That was back in January actually, so not that long ago. But yeah, I will read the text, and as I mentioned, you're always welcome to message me, to connect, to exchange. I will read the second text that was like from my down here in Whistler. As I said, it might not be the best thing to end the episode, but That's how I felt, and I'm pretty open about it. That day, on my way to work, I asked myself how I was really doing, because I already had a sense of something. I felt something, but I couldn't put it into words. At work, I was asked and even messaged the question, "How are you?" without having a clear answer. I don't know, but at the same time, I feel it. What I feel and can perceive is that something is missing, comparable to an emptiness. I don't feel exactly empty, but that's the closest way to describe it. I don't mind being alone, but I think because for the first time I'm drawing from my own resources without really being able to recharge, it feels emptier, more present, more intense. What I need isn't there, and I realize this emptiness has always been there. The need and desire to have people in my life who truly understand me. After 4 years of being intensely alone and traveling solo, I'm now at the point where I can't no longer fill this emptiness by myself. The people around me can cover it up for the moment, but I can't draw energy from them if that connection isn't there, which is why the emptiness remains unfilled. Every time I talk to someone, I do it, but it doesn't help me anymore, because it feels like I'm talking to myself. Not because others don't understand or know what I mean, but because I have a way of constantly evolving, of consciously feeling into emotions even if it hurts, reflecting on things in myself. A way that for many is too much, too open, too direct, too deep, too overwhelming. But what is too much for some people is exactly right for someone else. Which is why I can adapt, but I won't pretend to be something I'm not. I don't expect people to be like me. It's enough for me if they understand. In the end, I need people who understand me. I need people who can handle my openness, depth, and directness. People who see you before you say anything. People who don't try to give you advice but understand you, creating an exchange. I think this emptiness that has grown over the years, that has always been there, and that I've always filled with my own energy, confidence, and positivity, I can't fill it alone anymore. This emptiness is now here until those people come into my life. I hope it didn't crush the episode. I hope it wasn't too deep, ending the episode with like those texts, but obviously I'm way better, and obviously you overcome down phases like those at some point. That was it with the episode. I wish you a lovely day wherever you are, whatever you do, maybe also a good night, and yeah, I see you soon in the next episode.